Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode. All right, I'm taking a deep breath here because today we are talking about patient care. Now, before we launch into what makes patient care so difficult, I want to acknowledge something. We are all patients. We may have all been, quote unquote, that patient, right? Who was difficult in some way to somebody. Let's just pause and realize that if we have human emotion reactions to the emotional humans that we are taking care of, emotional not because they are being needy, but just emotions because usually when people are coming in to see us for medical care, there are things going on in their life that are causing stress, fear, anxiety, right? Generally speaking, otherwise they wouldn't be there outside of maybe that totally really normal wellness care, right? Or the prenatal visit or the well child check, right? Most of the time when people are coming in, they are coming in their own emotional state. And we as non-psychopaths, right, have a response to the other humans who need us. So I want to throw that out there because as we talk about some of the difficulties of caring for other humans, we might feel like total jerks, total assholes, right? Who, are just unsympathetic to everything. And that is not what this episode is about. We are really trying to understand why we feel this way and figure out what we need to do to help ourselves. Okay? So, and if you are a patient who is out there listening, as of course everybody is, this is also not about you. It's not about anything that you are necessarily doing wrong or ways that you're making someone's life difficult. But it is about the very real challenges that being on either side of the healthcare equation presents to us as humans, right? If you are using medical insurance in order to get care, right, there are a lot of barriers that are placed on your healthcare team that make it challenging for them to adequately fulfill the needs that you are coming in with as a patient in the way that you would like them to be cared for. If you are not in an insurance system, right, and you're doing some kind of other direct care model, some of those pressures may be relieved, and yet most of us do not have the kind of relationship with our patients or our physicians, right, where that person, that healthcare provider is available to you all day, all hours, all the time to you know take care of all of your needs, right? There are some very wealthy people and some celebrities maybe who have that kind of care, but that is not the reality of the US healthcare system or the healthcare system in just about any place in the world. Okay, let's put that down for a moment. In preparing for this episode, I sat down and just started brainstorming what are all the things that make it difficult to go into a patient care day. And this sounds a little silly, right? Because as physicians, most of us are providing care in some kind of a direct manner. Now, there are some specialties. My husband is lab medicine. He never, ever, ever sees human patients face to face, ever, ever. Now, he sometimes will consult on particular patient cases related to some weird sample, some weird pathogen that has come in that he's developed a specialized test for. But he has zero patient contact. That is unique, right? Most physicians have patient contact, and some of us are pretty much all patient contact, right? There might be some consulting work, there might be some teaching work, there might be some other kind of work that's not patient care, but most of us are doing direct patient care in some capacity, right? Where we see the patients ourselves, we see their bodies, we examine the pertinent body parts, we interpret lab tests and studies, we listen to stories, we look for patterns, right? We identify, diagnose, treat, manage. surgerized, right? All direct care on human bodies. So what makes care difficult? A lot of physicians have introvert energy. They are great one-on-one and are great at connecting. This is a lot of the humans that I particularly work with as a coach. They are really able to tune in and listen and hear, what is going on for their patients. And that's difficult because as introverts, it also drains them, right? There's also a huge energy cost. And of course, that is true for extroverts, and most people are somewhere in between, right? There's some blend of introvert and extrovert. But there is this component where seeing people, and seeing a lot of people all throughout the day does drain our energy, right? When we are in that care role with patients in front of us, we are on, quote unquote, right? We need to be acting in the role of physician, right? To be looking and speaking in a certain way in order to, sort of fulfill that role. That is just a part of the work that we do. When we are seeing a patient, just about every interaction that we have with the patient will end up getting documented. And it usually ends up getting documented by us, right? We see a patient, we write an essay. We see a patient, we write an essay. We see or talk to a patient on the phone, we write an essay. It doesn't matter if you are outpatient or inpatient, even if you have a scribe, even if you are using dictation, you are still composing an essay every time you see a patient. And now it might be a very brief one, it might be a longer one, right? But just about every time you are required to document, right? So there is this component of, taking a deep breath. If I see the patient, I am going to need to produce written content every time I see them to document that I have provided care, right? That is a reality, and it is one that ends up being incredibly draining for a lot of people. The patient-physician interaction is emotions, and I hit on this a little bit in the intro, but as much as we are taught to be professional and present ourselves in a certain way, again, as non-psychopathic pathology people, we have an emotional response to the emotions of the other human sitting in front of us, right? That's just natural. People come to see us in pain, suffering, super anxious, not able to sleep, right? With unexplained symptoms going on, right? They're worried. We as humans, receive, notice, absorb some of those emotions. And so there is an emotional energy cost for most of us, in caring for patients, even if we don't have a, pre-existing relationship with them, even if we are in an urgent care setting where we are going to, put those stitches in and, and give them a tetanus booster and get them out the door. There is still an emotional transaction that goes on because these humans are coming to us with an emotional component to whatever their symptoms are, right? Whether that's pain, fear, anxiety, uncertainty, doubt, all of those things are existent in the patient-physician care relationship. Adding to the list, many, many pressures are weighing on us that are pushing us to see more people, now, to, go quicker, to work in extra people, right? To be more and more efficient all the time, right? In this desire to commoditize care, right? To make medical care into this, predictable, widgetable model, right? That is a desire from business groups. And as, private equity has come in and, these systems, right, that really want to profit from medical care, which is a very real reality, and from systems who may be nonprofit but still need to keep the lights on, in an insurance reimbursement model where insurances are, decreasing reimbursement rates, right? There are very real financial pressures on systems, again, profit side, nonprofit side, right? The reality is there, that they want us to do more. And in doing more, they are neglecting the fact that part of medical care is creating a trusting relationship, even if you are simply washing a wound, putting stitches in, giving them a tetanus booster, and getting them out the door. There is still emotional transaction there, even if it is very cut and dry, because that person wants to be cared for in a certain way, right? And so when we widgetize and think every appointment, every interaction needs to be 15 minutes or less because that's what we need to keep the lights on, that pressure weighs very heavily on us because we are meant to feel inadequate if we do not want to or cannot squeeze the care into that little bucket, right? It is not our fault that we can't do that, but it is a very real pressure that sits on us. Another thing that makes it difficult is that physicians often work with no breaks, right? From the moment you walk in the door, people are asking you questions, paging you, expecting things of you. And you are a human who has human needs for eating, peeing, sleeping, taking a break, attuning to your emotions, right? There are things that you need to do as a human, and you do not have time or space to do them because you are often working through lunch. You do not have any scheduled breaks. If you do, they get taken up by more patients. You get asked to see more patients because they're short staffed. You get asked to room your own patients because, oh, hey, we don't have any medical assistants here today, right? You know that when you walk into, the care situation in which you work, you are not going to rest at all. And it may seem like that is selfish to think that we might need those breaks and those rests because we have been conditioned to think so. But after we leave training, we are looking at years and years and years often of working without breaks, right? Of really being on for so many hours of the day. We get judgment sometimes for working part-time, but we all know what part-time means. We all know what part-time means. And we all know how much time we spend outside of the scheduled time that we are working. Now, again, there are many ways to help that. There are many ways to work on that, right? So that we are not donating all this extra time. But we know that we are working solidly through, and it takes a certain amount of energy to do that, right? If we are feeling drained, that is hard on us, and we might start our day feeling dread, feeling like we really have to, gird our loins, if you will. We have to armor up to be able to get through what is a physically and emotionally demanding role, even if we are just hopping from patient room to patient room, right? That is a reality of the work that we do. Another thing that makes our work really challenging, right, is that so often when we get asked to double book, when we get asked to see a walk-in, when we get asked to see our patients who have arrived really late, when we get asked to take another patient on our, inpatient list, when we get asked to stay late or to cover someone else's call, we are put in the position of having to disappoint or not care for people if we are to say no. And there is a real cost to that is different from someone, being, the store being out of a particular flavor of ice cream, right? That is one problem, but it is very different if a patient walks in seeking care for something that's going on, right? And they are told that they cannot be seen. And of course, there are components to that, right? What is really necessary? Are they being seen for something that they feel is acute that can actually wait, but they are demanding to be taken care of now? Or is it something that truly needs to be taken care of now? This is where that word urgent, gets thrown around, and it gets abused, right? Because many of the things that that come to us, that are marked as urgent are not truly urgent, but there are plenty of circumstances as well where things are truly urgent, right? The patient walking into the emergency room, clutching their chest, complaining of chest pain, can't be turned away because there are, there's no capacity, right? That's not allowed. That's not reasonable. But there may be other circumstances where the patient, shows up in the emergency room with, non-trauma related knee pain that's been going on for 4 weeks, right? And they think it's very urgent, but it is not at all medically urgent, right? That dichotomy exists, but every time we have to make the decision, can I stay? Can I take that extra person? Do I have the capacity? We know that we are bumping up against, people being disappointed in us, right? The people, feeling like they should be able to get whatever it is that they need, whether they showed up late for their appointment or, showed up in the hospital with chest pain. Like, that circumstance happens to us all the time. And it has to do with staffing issues and capacity and all kinds of other issues that are completely unrelated to us. But it ends up being this very emotional trigger for so many physicians, right? Because we don't want to be the one who says no, even if we are so tired, we are on the verge of tears. It is a very real challenge, right? And that feeling of constantly being asked to overstretch our bounds is so challenging and so draining for so many people. We could probably add a million other things to this list of what makes it hard, right? You could add on there, quote unquote, that patient, that difficult patient, right? The patient who always wants certain things from you, who, always wants the full list addressed, who is always really grumpy, right? That is a reality of providing care. We could add on there, how you might get through your full day and you're doing well and you're keeping on top of things, and that very last patient of the day blows it all to hell, right? Not maybe because of anything they were intentionally doing, right? But maybe they've got something very serious going on, and it might have just happened, or maybe it's been going on for a long time, but it has suddenly landed in your lap as a crisis, and it explodes your day, right? There are so many instances that we could point to. Prior authorization crap. Right? There are so many challenges that we face, and all of these are connected to that direct patient care. And so if you find yourself being drained by your work, take a deep breath here and realize that you are not being weak. There is a lot on us. And there's so much here that is not stuff that we were taught to cope with during our training. It's not even stuff that we maybe knew existed, right? I remember very clearly being a medical student and even into residency and not being able to understand the frustration and overwhelm that I saw in my attendings because I didn't realize the ongoing pressures and stresses that they faced all day, all the time, right? I only knew in my freshness and in my naivete about what it took to be a physician. All I knew was that it seemed like they didn't enjoy their work, but I didn't have an understanding of why. It wasn't because they hated patients, right? We don't hate patients. We didn't go into this work because we didn't want to help people, but the very real costs on us weigh heavily, right? And so when we are feeling like it's so hard to take care of patients, realize that you've got 3 tons on your back that you're dragging around with you. Whether that's from hospital room to hospital room, from clinic room, in the ER, whatever the work is that you're doing, there is a lot that is heaped on top of you. And if you're sitting here and you find yourself really feeling this way, I want you to know that your emotional response to everything that I just shared is directly correlated with how well or not your own needs are being met. When your own needs are being met and you feel well regulated, well cared for, well fed, like you're getting the sleep and the exercise and the play and the laughter that you need, your ability to cruise into that difficulty and to leave knowing that you've done a good job is so much better. Not to say that you're full up on your tank right at the time that you leave, but so many of us are going from day to day to day to day to day, feeling run down, feeling the pressure of all of this, feeling like the weight of the world is on you to make everybody happy, to make everybody better, right? To see people faster, to meet all the metrics, to get all the scores, to get all the satisfaction survey, gold stars, right? There's so much on you. And my guess is that you're not currently taking the good care of yourself or feeling like you're able to set the boundaries that you need to set in order to get your needs met. There's nothing wrong with you, and you aren't wrong or dumb or broken if you have ended up in this place where it feels really hard to take care of patients. Your training involved you putting aside your own needs for the sake of other people, and no one ever gave you permission to care about yourself again, to put your own needs back on your plate, to be asking for help, to be setting boundaries, right? In fact, many of us, I was just talking with someone about this earlier today, many of us have been blamed, censured, written up, labeled when we have tried to set boundaries. And nearly all of the time, those boundaries were 100% legitimate, reasonable boundaries, right? Us saying it is not okay for you to give away my after hours time. It is not okay for you to assume that I'm available all day, all the time, or for all of the care needs of every single patient in the world that comes in, right? Our capacity is not monitored by our systems, right? Our systems that we work in do not treat us like human beings. They do not treat us as mammals with finite amounts of energy, right? Who need to eat and sleep. They just don't treat us that way. And we could have long discussions about how that's not okay and how we need the system to change. But before we go into those kinds of discussions, we need to realize how important it is for us to get our own needs met. We need to feel like we have the resources, the internal resources to care for ourselves, regardless of the external circumstances. I want our systems to change. I want every physician and healthcare provider to be able to feel like they have the resources that they need to take great care of patients. That is not the reality that most of us deal with, right? We deal with a broken healthcare system that wants us to do more with less very often. And that does not treat us as humans who have human needs. Therefore, in order to stay in these systems, in order to stay in medicine and be able to enjoy taking care of patients, right, and to get that satisfaction again, right, and not be feeling like you're just drowning in overwhelm and cynicism and hating other humans, right, we need to get our needs met. What will it take for you to be able to be in that place? What needs to happen? What can you start doing? How can you learn how to face the discomfort of saying no, face the discomfort of setting boundaries, knowing that you do not control, unfortunately, the responses of other humans, right? If you have been labeled difficult for setting a boundary, you do not control that circumstance, but someone else labeling you as difficult for setting a boundary is a real consequence that can happen. And can you be okay with that, relatively speaking, so that you get your needs met? Can you choose to say, my health, my worth, my value deserves to be able to set reasonable boundaries and to advocate for yourself and to feel like you have agency there? Now, some of this will kick up dust. It's going to stir up the system. And sometimes we are working in places that we need to stop working in. That is true. Sometimes we will need to engage with additional help and, really find other people to advocate for us in order to help establish and maintain those boundaries, right? We're going to have to practice discomfort. We're going to have to lean in and ask for help. There are things that are going to need to happen often. And sometimes we'll find uncomfortable truths like, I cannot keep working in this place because I cannot keep having my boundaries violated. I cannot keep not having my needs met. I cannot keep thinking, this is important. I cannot keep thinking that me being in this job, me being in this role, requires me to sacrifice everything. That is not okay. And some of it, yes, might include moving to a different place or deciding I can't do this here, or maybe I don't want to be in medicine anymore. That is a decision that some people can make, and that's okay. Don't make that from a place of complete exhaustion. Please take a break. But we need to do work, unfortunately, to undo our conditioning that leads us to believe that just because I took a job here as a physician, that doesn't mean I signed away all my rights. It doesn't mean I agreed to work 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It does not. It does not. Pull up your contract. Take a look. It does not mean that it's okay for my clinic, my hospital, wherever I'm working, to force me to work during my non-work times all the time, right? We have to be able to set some limits and boundaries. We have to be able to set reasonable limits with our patients. We have to be able to take care of ourselves in the midst of our work, because the work that we do takes an emotional toll. It requires a lot of us. And in order to be able to provide care in the way that we want to, we need to take better care of ourselves. And don't hear me say that as a burden. Don't hear me say that as you should be doing a better job. No. What I mean is that we need to wake up. We need to realize that we are valuable just by virtue of being us, just by virtue of being human, that we do have valuable skills and knowledge and expertise, and we can be expert consultants who help to guide the health and well-being of our patients, right? Who use those knowledge and skills and expertise to help others heal. But we are not solely responsible for every outcome that patient has in their life. And outside of, doing some weird concierge care where you are 100% available 100% of your time, and you've signed a contract that says that you are 100% responsible for this human in front of you all day, every day for the rest of your life. Outside of that circumstance, you matter, and you deserve, matter in that circumstance too, I suppose, but you deserve to get your needs met. And you did not sign up to give away your whole life in order to take care of patients. Hear me when I say that all of these issues come up so often in my conversations with other physicians, in the people that I'm coaching, right? In the conversations I have with people, who work in other, caregiving professions of different kinds. We as humans need to be able to get our needs met. You are not unique in them. And you are not broken or a bad physician if you realize that your needs matter too. In fact, you'll be a better physician in the long run. You'll be better able to continue taking care of people when you are able to take care of yourself. You will model better things for people, right? If patient care feels really hard, pause and think about what it is that you need, right? Because your emotional response to feeling a heavy burden from patient care is directly correlated with how well your needs are being met or how poorly they're being met. When you are taken care of, it is much easier to take care of other humans. But taking care of yourself cannot come after all the other humans are taken care of, because there's endless humans who need taken care of. You have to learn how to put yourself first. I'm going to wrap it up there for today. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. I just really want it to sit deep inside you. You matter. Your needs matter. You are important. And you did not sign away your life by agreeing to become a physician, despite what others may make you feel, right? We have human bodies, human brains, human hearts or emotional centers, whatever you want to call it, and our needs matter. Thank you so much, as always, for your time, and